Portuguese prosecutors have officially made a German man a suspect over the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
It's a crime that has haunted one family for over 15 years.
Please, if you have Madeleine, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
I'm Mark Williams-Thomas, a former British detective turned journalist with over 30 years' experience investigating some of the biggest cases in the UK and worldwide. Just days after Madeleine was abducted, I was on the ground reporting.
The marina offers an easy access very quickly out to sea.
And I've been trying to solve the case ever since. In 2020 came the biggest breakthrough in 13 years. German authorities announced they had a prime suspect.
The suspect is a 43-year-old German national.
He is Christian B, a sex offender, paedophile and burglar. But 2 years on, police have not yet charged him. I'll be testing their evidence, uncovering new witnesses and pursuing a meeting with the prime suspect himself to find out if this man is the missing link in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Madeleine McCann was my first major case as an investigative journalist, and it's stayed with me ever since.
3 days have gone by, no communication from anyone at all. I think it's looking like an abduction.
Jerry and Kate McCann have faced every parent's worst nightmare and continue to go through the torment of not knowing what happened to their daughter.
To have a part in trying to get some closure for Jerry and Kate means everything.
After years of dead ends and cold leads, one man has emerged as the prime suspect. Christian B is a convicted burglar and violent sex offender. He is a paedophile known to offend against young girls. And it seems the case against him hinges on one key element: a phone call which police believe potentially places him in the area on the night of Madeleine's disappearance.
Hi, how are you, Mark?
Yeah, very good, very good. I'm working with a team of journalists across Europe who have in-depth knowledge of the case.
The importance of that phone call is that it happened before Madeleine allegedly was taken away from the apartment.
João Godinho is a Portuguese journalist who has been reporting on Madeleine's disappearance for the world's press since day one. Where was Christian B if it was him who took that phone call?
Could he have been by the apartment, or could he equally have been at another location some distance away? The opportunity now is great because it's fresh, it's back in the public's attention, and we've got a new suspect. I know that when I start digging, I will find new information out that hasn't yet been in the public domain. I'm determined to do everything to find the truth and find out whether or not Christian B is responsible for the abduction and murder of Madeleine McCann.
I'm heading to Portugal to start my investigation at the scene of the crime. This is where the nightmare began for the McCanns. At the Ocean Club, a holiday resort in Praia da Luz.
I've never visited any crime scene as much as I've visited this area. 3rd of May 2007, and behind me is apartment 5A, and that is where, on that night, Madeleine was put to bed in the same room as her brother and sister. Jerry and Kate, mum and dad, went to the tapas bar just down here. That is where they had dinner with a group of friends that they were staying with. And between them, they arranged a babysitting service, and that was that they were going to check on each other's children. About 9:05, Jerry left to do the first check on the children, going into his apartment and checking on Madeleine.
Madeleine was there, but the position of the bedroom door was a little different to how they'd left it. 5 minutes later, their friend Jane Tanner went to check on her children. She later told the Portuguese police that she saw a man carrying a child on the street outside. And that was the first sighting of an individual as a possible suspect. 15 minutes later, another friend checks on the McCann children, but did not go into the apartment to see if Madeleine was there. Then, around half an hour later, Kate came to check on Madeleine. And it was at that point she walked into the bedroom. She saw that the front window was open and Madeleine was gone. She looked around the apartment in panic, but Madeleine was nowhere to be seen. She then runs back to the tapas bar and raises the alarm. As minutes passed, they became more and more concerned. The police arrived and they quickly realised something was seriously wrong. And from that point on, Madeleine has never been seen, and Jerry and Kate, still 14 years on, don't know what happened to Madeleine McCann.
Madeleine has now been missing for almost 24 hours.
Now, this is a family enduring the greatest anxiety. Where is Madeleine? Who could have snatched her while she was asleep in her room?
With the world's press descending on Praia da Luz, Jerry and Kate's despair grew with every passing minute. Lay Minister Eckhart Flirter consoled Jerry and Kate McCann in the weeks after Madeleine was abducted.
It was awful. I mean, such a big shock. For me, it's amazing how they really cope, still cope. If the truth comes out, this would help that McCanns can really grieve properly. This insecurity over now 14 years, it must be an awful, awful situation for them.
We're here now talking about Madeleine. Did you ever imagine that would be the case when this first started?
With millions of pounds, invested in this investigation, and nobody would have thought that you can't resolve that case. You would ask yourself, what mistake did we make?
In 2007, Portuguese police had a list of paedophiles in the area that they wanted to question. The man heading the investigation at the time reportedly says police knocked on Christian B's door, but no one answered. I'm now going to Germany to find out why the German authorities have said they believe Christian B is responsible, not just for Madeleine's abduction, but also for her murder. Where was she killed?
In Portugal.
I'm investigating Christian B, the prime suspect in the abduction of Madeleine McCann. A witness first linked Christian B to Madeleine's disappearance in 2013, but it wasn't until 2017 that police began investigating him after a second witness came forward. Now, 14 years after she was taken, prosecutors from Christian B's hometown in Germany are driving the case against him.
Ermittelt die Staatsanwaltschaft Braunschweig gegen einen 43-jährigen deutschen Staatsangehörigen wegen des Verdachts des Mordes.
But what evidence do they have?
Wir haben damals im Juni 2 Fotos von einem VW-Bus, einem Camper und von einem Jaguar veröffentlicht. Das waren beides Fahrzeuge, mit denen Christian B. üblicherweise unterwegs gewesen ist.
Police say his Jaguar was re-registered to a new owner in Germany the day after Madeleine disappeared. And this is another line of inquiry for the German police. Another key part of the police investigation is their belief that Christian B's mobile phone pinged to a mast near the crime scene on the night Madeleine disappeared. This call was received at 7:32 p.m. and ended at 8:02 p.m.
On the 3rd of May, you can place categorically Christian B using the telephone number ending 680 outside Madeleine's apartment in Praia da Luz?
Ja, nach allem, was wir wissen, ist es tatsächlich so.
At the moment, I haven't seen the evidence, but Walters is adamant that he can place Christian B outside Madeleine's apartment on the day she vanished using the telephone number 680. So if police are correct and Christian B himself was on 680, who was he talking to on 683 and what were they talking about?
Having established how confident the police are in placing Christian B at the scene of the crime, I want to know more about this man. Who is he? What's his story? So I'm heading to the German town where he grew up. Christian B was born in 1976. His mother put him up for adoption when he was 1 year old. His adoptive parents, Bridget and Fritz, are believed to have adopted 2 other boys. And the couple raised the children in this house, where they reportedly ran a strict regime. An elderly neighbour knew the family well and remembers seeing the boys often.
Dass sie immer aus der Tüte Brötchen gegessen haben, da in der Gasse. Ne, waren sie da in der Gasse gestanden und haben aus der Tüte weggegessen. Denke, die wären nicht satt daheim. Ne?
Age 16, 1992, his adoptive father was involved in a very serious car accident, and as a result, they could no longer look after him. Christian B moved to and was raised by a church welfare institution. And that year, he notched up his first criminal record for a house break-in. Less than 2 years later, aged 17, and not yet a legal adult, he was convicted of much more serious offences: the sexual abuse of 2 girls, aged 6 and 9. But instead of serving his 2-year prison sentence in Germany, Christian B ended up in Portugal. Christian B is now suspected by police of committing further sexual offences in Portugal, but he would not be arrested for any until 2017.
It's really important to come to the crime scene before you speak to witnesses or the victims. And that's because when they give their account, for me, it paints the picture.
In June 2017, on a warm summer's night, there was a party with families filling this square. And in this playground were young children. That night, Christian B allegedly offended again. The 8-year-old victim's mother has agreed to talk to me.
Estávamos à mesa com amigos e família a comer e a beber e as crianças andavam a brincar no parque e de repente a minha filha veio a correr com outra criança e disse: mãe, está ali homem com as calças em baixo.
Nelia says she was told by a witness what had happened.
Pela frente aquilo tinha parque infantil com escorrega. E por baixo tinha do género de uma casinha e o Christian estava por baixo dessa casinha, com as calças em baixo e a masturbar-se.
Did the man you now know to be Christian B say anything to your daughter?
E na altura que a minha filha passa pela frente, que fica assim, ele diz: "Hey, you, what's your name? You, what's your name?" E a minha filha correu assustadíssima. Os pais de duas crianças que estavam com a minha filha já tinham agarrado o Christian. Ainda tentou, sim, inicialmente ainda tentou safar-se, mas eles se sentaram e disseram: "Não saias daqui." E ele ficou, acabou por ficar até vir as autoridades.
Later, Nellie had discovered the man who had allegedly exposed himself to her daughter and 2 other children had been extradited to Germany, where he was convicted for the sexual assault of another young girl.
À noite pensamos mesmo que se tratava de um pedófilo que não tinha ido ali só para fazer as necessidades, mas sim para raptar ou fazer mal a uma criança, sim.
What was the impact at that time on your daughter?
Foi complicado. A minha filha chorava. O que é que será que aconteceu à Madeleine? Será que... Eu disse à filha: "A Madeleine provavelmente está morta, já há muitos anos." "Mas porquê é que tu dizes que está morta? Não pode estar morta." Tem medo. Nós falamos e ela fica assustada. Ela diz-nos: "Mãe, e se ele sai da prisão? E se ele vem à minha procura?"
Christian B was never charged for what Nellie claims he did to her daughter and her friends in the playground.
Estou revoltada. Sinto-me revoltada por não se fazer justiça. Acho que deveria de haver mais proteção para as nossas crianças em Portugal, que é aquilo que eu acho que não há.
Nellie's account is that Christian B
puts himself under the slide, takes his trousers down and starts to masturbate whilst there's children all around.
And what stands out for me is if he is brazen enough to allegedly do it.
On an event, on an evening like this, when it's full of families, he's capable of doing it anywhere.
We know the Algarve as a sun-kissed holiday destination. In 1994, Christian B was an 18-year-old convicted for burglary and child sex offences. But instead of serving his prison sentence in Germany, he chose to come here.
He disappears and he comes here.
To the south of Portugal, yeah. The fact is that Algarve does attract criminals, as every place, of course. There are lots of scattered houses and isolated places where they can live and do whatever they want. If they are burglars or if they're robbing houses or if they're sex offenders, they have a very good opportunity to do it here because people aren't that aware of the dangers that are around.
I'm going to meet one of the first people to learn about Christian B's shady past. By the time Madeleine was taken in 2007, Christian B's former lawyer believed the authorities had the opportunity to discover he was a convicted paedophile.
Hello, Mr. Vera. Can I come
A year before Madeleine disappeared, Christian B came to the attention of the police in the Algarve. Accused of stealing diesel, he appeared in court and was asked to list all his previous convictions.
He mentioned that he got convictions for stealing and for sexual crime when he was 17. He didn't mention what sort of crime was it, but one of the crimes was a sexual crime.
Just give me a sense, did you get any feeling that this is a man involved with much more serious crimes than the theft of fuel?
What I thought of him is what I think about a lot of people on his age and with his lifestyle. They don't have a steady life, they don't have steady jobs, they make a bit of money here, a bit of money there, might make smaller crimes, usually involving stealing or traffic, some sort of drugs.
When Christian B was arrested for the diesel theft, the court asked for his address. He was renting a farmhouse outside Praia de Luz. but he chose to conceal this fact, telling the court that he was living in a van.
And that's one of the reasons the court used in order to keep him in custody, because he had no address and no job.
Christian B hid his farmhouse address from the authorities, even though it probably cost him extra jail time. Why would he want to conceal his property? Was there a reason he didn't want them snooping around? Right now, Christian B is serving a 7-year sentence for raping an elderly woman in Praia de Luz in 2005, 2 years before Madeleine disappeared. He's locked up in a high-security jail in northwest Germany, and I want to contact him directly.
There we go, letter finished. So I've written to Christian B in jail, and the reason for doing this is that he can clearly give us an awful lot of information.
If I can get him to talk to me, I can ask him about that phone call police believe he took on the day she disappeared.
He knows who he was talking to on the 3rd of May, and he also knows where he went on that day and on the days afterwards. If he doesn't want to be accused of murdering Madeleine, this is his opportunity to set the record straight.
So I've established that Christian B is thought to have been in Praia de Luz the night Madeleine disappeared. But I need to prove he was there and could have taken Madeleine. To do that, I need to find the people who have kept quiet for years. And I think I know where they are.
What is really crucial is to find out where Christian B was living prior to Madeleine's disappearance and in the days, weeks and months after her disappearance.
I begin my search at the farmhouse that Christian B hid from the authorities in 2006.
Let's hope she's in.
Was he living here when Madeleine was taken in May 2007? The old farmhouse is just 3 kilometres from the Ocean Club. His former neighbour helped tidy the property after Christian B left.
Listen, it's middle of the day. She could be away. She could be away for a while.
She isn't in, but I've tracked down a number for her.
I've read that the place was ransacked and you went in and cleaned it. Is that right?
The house had been turned over and left in a really bad state. He must have left precipitously, I think, because there was stuff in the fridge. There were rats and there were cats, and it was in a horrible mess. There was a lot of computers and camera equipment, so the place had been turned over, ransacked quite comprehensively. At the time when we cleaned out the house, there were 2 dogs chained up.
Did you see him after that time in the house?
No, I don't think I've ever seen him again.
After Christian B left the farmhouse, he was imprisoned for the fuel theft in April 2006. But where did he go when he came out of jail in December 2006? Christian B was known to have stayed at another address, in a small town 30 minutes outside of Praia de Luz called Farral.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Come on in.
Thank you for agreeing to chat.
This landlady rented her house to a friend of Christian B's. She spotted his vehicle parked there from time to time.
He did have some sort of a camper van, and he did sleep in that camper van outside the villa.
This is a man who was very mobile, drifting around the Algarve in his multiple vehicles and selling drugs. But the landlady can't be precise about the dates. So where was he in 2007 when Madeleine McCann disappeared? Back in Germany, I'm about to meet my most important lead so far. His name is Dieter.
Hello, Dieter.
He visited the house that Christian B's friend rented in Farral.
It's taken quite a lot to get this interview.
What Dieter claims he can do is place Christian B in a camper van in the Algarve, and of course, if his recollection is correct...
That's really important because it's around the time of Madeleine's disappearance in 2007.
Dieter met Christian B in Foral in April or May 2007. Madeleine disappeared on the 3rd of May.
Ja, ich habe mit ihm, wie ich ihn getroffen habe, draußen begrüßt habe und sind wir ins Gespräch und dann habe ich nur gesagt, hast ein riese Wohnmobil. Und dann habe ich gesagt, ja, kann ich es mal von drinnen sehen? Dann hat er gesagt, ja, dann sind wir mal reingegangen und das war dann so groß wie ein Wohnzimmer schon fast. Der Couch war da drinnen, über ein Sessel drinnen, wie wir da in der Tür rein.
What Christian B told him then has haunted Dieter ever since.
Da hat er aber nicht viel gesagt. Er fährt mal dahin, mal dahin. Und dann hat er gesagt, dass er damit Gras transportiert. Ja, hat er gesagt, er will nach Deutschland oder irgendwo da unten oder Russland dagegen 50 Kilo Gras mit rüberfahren. Hat gesagt. Und ich habe mir dann nur noch gefragt, wo er das verstecken will. Und dann hat er zu mir im gleichen Atemzug, ja, hat er gesagt, er hat ihn versteckt, er hat es so umgebaut. Da hat er ihn versteckt, das ist so groß, dass da kleine Kinder reinpassen. Da wollte ich mir es aber zeigen lassen noch einmal, aber das hat er dann mir natürlich nicht gezeigt.
When police seized the Tiffin Allegro motorhome at Christian B's property in 2016, they reportedly found children's clothing inside, including swimsuits.
Knowing now what you know, the conversation he had with you in the camper van relating to the size of a compartment being that of a child, what are your thoughts?
Dass vielleicht die sogar an dem Zeitraum da drinnen war. Das geht mir schon die ganze Zeit nach, also dass ich immer daran denken muss, hoffentlich war die nicht da drinnen, wo ich da drin gesessen habe.
I had no idea that Dieter, when he saw that motorhome, he thought that Madeleine may well have been inside. And that's only something that dawned on him 13 years later, when Christian B came to the attention in the media as being involved in Madeleine's disappearance.
Dieter cannot be specific. It's either April or May 2007. But according to his account, we can place Christian B as staying in Foral, which is 60 kilometres away and a 40-minute drive from Praia de Luz, the month before or after Madeleine was taken. When police named Christian B as the prime suspect in 2020, their key breakthrough was a mobile phone call pinging off a Praia de Luz mast. They say it places Christian B's phone near the crime scene, just 1 to 2 hours before Madeleine disappeared. According to police, Christian B used a Portuguese mobile phone number ending 680. And on the night Madeleine vanished, that phone received a half-hour call from 7:32 p.m. to 8:02 p.m. from a Portuguese mobile ending 683. In 2020, the police released these numbers to the public in an appeal to identify the user of 683, the person who allegedly called Christian B's number. Where they called from and what they talked about were all unknown. German police have hit a brick wall with identifying the user of 683.
The 683 number is so crucial because if we can find out who was using that number on that day, that might allow us to unlock whether or not Christian B abducted and murdered Madeleine McCann.
I need the help of cyber analyst Martin Kays. If anyone can identify the owner of 683, it's him.
Yeah, I've got quite a good bit of information for you.
Already,
yes.
Brilliant.
Martin found a social media account registered to the 683 number and then made contact with them.
Our investigation showed that that number's probably been reissued to somebody else.
This user seems to have taken over the original 683 account, but Martin is able to track their internet searches, and they reveal an alarming pattern.
Kids porn and teens, Lolita City, child abuse webcams, pedo webcams, little cams. This person who took over the account, of which we know is 683, is active themselves in a paedophile chat rooms?
It appears to be that way.
If they're a paedophile themselves from Germany, are they the person that had that phone in 2007?
It's too much of a coincidence.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
It started to point that way.
We need supporting evidence to verify if we are in touch with the original 683 user who allegedly called Christian B's phone back in 2007.
I can't stress enough how important finding the user of 683 is. The police have made that very clear. They've hit a brick wall.
If we are in touch with the original 683 user, it could open the case right up.
On that evening, what were they discussing? Was it that they were discussing purchasing or obtaining child abuse material, or could it be that actually they were discussing the abduction of a young girl? And that is what we need to try and find out.
When the German authorities began investigating Christian B, they linked him to a crime that had sinister echoes of Madeleine McCann's case. In 2005, 2 years before the abduction of Madeleine, Christian B broke into a property in Praia de Luz and raped a 72-year-old woman. He was living at the farmhouse at the time, and Jal, a local journalist who has been helping me, has found a narrow pathway leading directly to the victim's home.
If you go up this road, you will end up in that house where Christian B lived. You could easily walk down the road and then you would face his house.
It's a route that would have given Christian B a quick getaway.
She was just staying there when she heard the noise. Christian jumped the wall, got into the property. When she heard the noise, she went to look to see what happened. And that's when he attacked her from behind.
So we've got the court file pushed against the floor, forced her upstairs, grabbed her by the hair and neck, had a curved knife of about 30 centimetres, and then went in the bedroom, black hood over eyes, holes cut out, then onto the bed, opened her top, bra, and stripped her of her trousers, turned on the light, started to hit her across the face, the buttock, and the lower body. He ties her up, blindfolds her, and puts a rope around her wrists behind her back, and then rapes her.
When the German authorities tested DNA evidence from the crime scene, they found a match with Christian B. In 2021, he was convicted and is currently serving 7 years in jail. Yet, even now, he still denies his guilt.
We know what was taken from this property was money, 100 euros, and a laptop. So to commit a rape and then to steal afterwards entirely fits Christian B's profile, doesn't it?
100%.
I've written to Christian B in his German prison to question him about Madeleine's disappearance. But first, I head to Germany to meet someone who believes he can link Christian B to other sexual assaults. Could his history of sexual offending be much more extensive than anyone thought? Christian B is currently doing time in a German prison for raping an elderly woman 2 years before Madeleine McCann disappeared in a property just a short walk from the McCann's holiday apartment. I'm meeting a former associate of his who claims to have seen evidence of Christian B's sexual assaults on 2 further unidentified victims.
Zu mir hat gesagt, ist der Kellner. Und später hat dann gesagt, dass einbrechen geht auch da.
While Christian B was in prison in 2006, Manfred Seyferth and another associate, Helga Busching, say they found evidence of the assaults when they visited Christian B's farmhouse.
Bin mit Helga zum Haus gegangen. Und bei den Türen waren offen, steht alles auf im Haus. Ja, auf alle Fälle ist es unordentlich bei ihnen gewesen. Aber alles eben voll mit technischen Geräten, Fotoapparate, Videos und alles da. Jede Menge teure Sachen, Pässe, alles liegt da rum. Gestunken hat es wie Sau da drin. Der Helga hat dann die Kamera gefunden und ich weiß nicht, was er noch mit einem Kleinkram, noch irgendwas. Und noch irgendwas, ich weiß aber nicht mehr was. Ich glaube, Kassetten waren auch noch ein paar dabei oder sowas. Entweder am selben Abend oder am nächsten Morgen kam man dann bei mir an und sagte, hier, guck dir an, was ich hier gefunden habe. Da hat er mir das dann gezeigt.
What did you see on this screen?
Zuerst eine ältere Frau, die war irgendwo am Tisch oder was, und da hat er wohl mit so einer Eisenstange oder ich bin der Meinung, ist so linear gewesen, auf die Brust geschnippt oder sowas. Und gehört habe ich einmal, dass sie geschrien hat, Aiuto, das ist italienisch, das verstehe ich zufällig und heißt Hilfe. Dass sie am Tisch gelegen hat, rumgegangen wollte, irgendwas, ich glaube, sie sollte auch blasen oder irgendwas. Und dann habe ich schon, das war alles, was ich gesehen habe, kurz. Das war alles, was ich von den ganzen Videos gesehen habe, weil es war schon wieder weg.
But Seyferth says he saw another video, this time of a sexual assault on a young girl.
Jedenfalls mit den Händen so nach oben an diesem Balken. Und hat gesprochen auf Deutsch, als das ist eine Vergewaltigung. Da hat er gesagt, nein, das ist keine Vergewaltigung. Und dann sollte sie blasen, dann ist er da hingegangen. Und dann sollte sie blasen und dann musste sie wohl kotzen oder so. Und dann war sein Kommentar darauf, kotzt mir nicht mal einen schönen neuen Teppich voll. Und das war dann, also dann habe ich nichts mehr gesehen. Ich denke nicht, das ist kranke Welt.
How old would you say the girl was?
15, 16, so von der Optik.
You saw Christian B in the video, did you?
Ja, auf dem Video habe ich ihn richtig gesehen. Da habe ich auch das Gesicht gesehen bei den jungen Mädchen.
What did you do after seeing that video? How did you feel?
Ich habe da nicht drüber nachgedacht. Weg. Weg wie immer. Immer wenn es bei mir Probleme gibt, bin ich weg.
Seyferth and Busching's testimony helped convict Christian B of the rape of the 72-year-old woman. The tapes themselves were never found, so could not be produced in court. But if this alleged evidence of Christian B's sexual assaults could be obtained, it could be vital in linking him to the disappearance of Madeleine. So, what could have happened to those tapes?
Ich weiß es nicht. Wie mir Helge mal gesagt hat, hat er die mit dem Wohnwagen verkauft.
Seaforth and Bushing say they took the tapes from the farmhouse in 2006, and they were allegedly in Helga Bushing's camper van when he sold it sometime later.
And it's probably there to the left.
It's right here.
Yeah, see?
The person who bought the camper van may know something about these tapes. If found, they could help the Madeleine McCann investigation because they feature the prime suspect offending near Praia de Luz.
Hello, little one.
Hello, dog.
I'm a former British detective. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm making a programme about Christian B and the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. And I'm after Is he around? I understand that, but I need to ask some very important questions with regards to Christian B. Maybe you can help me, and it may massively help. And just your little piece of information, just in terms of answering these very simple questions, could really, really help, okay? So the van, you know the blue van.
Will you just come and speak to us? 5 minutes and we'll be out your hair, honestly.
What's in your hand? You got a knife?
Have you got a knife in your hand?
Huh? No, what you will do? What's happened?
Oh.
No. That's not the way to deal with it, is it? No. That's not the way to deal with it.
Come on.
Just talk to us.
5 minutes. What are you going to do?
Come on, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. Get in the car. And they are aggressive, aren't they?
He's got a shovel. He's coming out. He's coming out. Let's go. Oh, okay. Fuck me. He's coming. Oh.
It was just an inquiry like all the others I've made as part of this investigation. It's disappointing because I'd hoped to get some answers as to the existence of these videotapes.
Well, he got very angry. Just keep an eye on him whilst I'm talking to you. He got very, very angry. Just here to ask you some questions about Christian B, who you know.
I now know more about Christian B and his history of sexual crime, but the evidence for his involvement in Madeleine McCann's abduction is still circumstantial. I just can't link him directly to the crime. I need a breakthrough. And out of the blue, Christian B has replied, and he's offering me an opportunity to hear from the man himself.
I've got a letter from him, and it reads, "After careful deliberation, I came to the conclusion that no harm would come from giving you an interview." And then he signed it, Christian B. He's going to give us an interview. He can, if he wants to, and he's not responsible, completely and utterly exonerate himself from this. But if he is responsible and giving me an interview, he'll fall apart.
In response, the German prosecution has said, Christian B's lawyer, Mr. Fulcher, has said, Christian B has said,
Portuguese prosecutors have officially made a German man a suspect over the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
It's a crime that has haunted one family for over 15 years.
Please, if you have Madeleine, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
I'm Mark Williams-Thomas, a former British detective turned journalist with over 30 years' experience investigating some of the biggest cases in the UK and worldwide. Just days after Madeleine was abducted, I was on the ground reporting.
The marina offers an easy access very quickly out to sea.
And I've been trying to solve the case ever since. In 2020 came the biggest breakthrough in 13 years. German authorities announced they had a prime suspect.
The suspect is a 43-year-old German national.
He is Christian B, a sex offender, paedophile and burglar. But 2 years on, police have not yet charged him. I'll be testing their evidence, uncovering new witnesses and pursuing a meeting with the prime suspect himself to find out if this man is the missing link in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
Please, if you have Madeleine, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
When Madeleine vanished in 2007, police in Portugal combed the Algarve looking for her, interviewing possible witnesses and hundreds of potential suspects, and are even thought to have knocked on Christian B's door at his former farmhouse address, but he no longer lived there. Within months of Madeleine's disappearance, Christian B came back to Germany. I need to find people who knew him, visit some of the places he lived, and understand his offending behaviour to see if there are any definitive clues linking him to Madeleine McCann. The first place in Germany he shows up in late summer 2007 is an allotment site on the outskirts of Hanover, where he built a makeshift home. Wolfgang was his neighbour.
Sondern hauptsächlich in seinem Haus. Ich habe von ihm nur gehört, dass er mit Bierflaschen geklimpert hat. Also hat er wahrscheinlich viel Bier getrunken. Einmal seine Hunde hier rumstreuen ließ. Die haben ihre Hinterlassenschaften hier überall gelassen.
What did you think of Christian B? Did you like him?
Wenn man begegnet, man empfindet das sofort, ob man ihm gefällt oder nicht. Und ich habe gleich gesagt, das wird nie mein Freund.
Christian B rented the allotment for around 6 months in 2007. Then, 13 years later in 2020, following the announcement that he was the prime suspect, the police searched the area looking for any clues as to Madeleine's whereabouts. The world's media descended on the site, and underneath his makeshift house, the police found a cellar.
The police have since searched this area. Tell me, what did they do?
Ich habe es auch nur, wie gesagt, es stand alles voller Polizeiautos. Ich weiß es auch nur durch die Zeitung, dass Christian B. hier irgendwas verscharrt haben soll.
The search found nothing. So if Christian B. had anything to hide, it was somewhere else. By the end of 2007, Christian B. left the allotment. For the next 5 years, he travelled between Portugal and Germany. By 2012, the McCanns were battling to keep the search for Madeleine alive. And Christian B. arrived in Braunschweig, Germany, to lead an apparently innocent life, running a kiosk selling confectionery. Bridget worked in the bar next door.
Hat Kinder im Kiosk, wenn sie mit den Eltern kamen, Lolli, also geschenkt. Er war immer lieb und nett zu den Kindern. Ich habe nur diese Seite von ihm kennengelernt.
Did Christian ever tell you anything, or did you ever hear of anything, whilst you knew him, that concerned you?
Auf gar keinen Fall. Im Gegenteil, die Gäste vom Kiosk mochten ihn sehr.
Sabine used to work for Christian B. at the kiosk. She gives an alarming account of what went on behind closed doors.
Ich mochte ihn nie. Der war mir, weiß ich nicht, so unnahbar. Der hat nicht viel erzählt und hat immer nur gesagt, das und das und das muss gemacht werden und wenn ich wiederkomme, ist das gemacht.
And who would you see in the kiosk?
Immer nur junge Frauen, so 16, 17 Jahre alt.
Christian B. was 36 years old when he first moved into the kiosk in 2012.
Schutzer das alle. Der hat auch eine Russin gehabt. Und die hat er wohl vermöbelt, aus dem Grund ist er abgehauen. Sagt er, was willst du von so einem alten Kerl? Ja, Geld. Ich sag, was machst du dafür? Ja, dafür schlafe ich mit dem. Ich sag, bist du bescheuert? Ich habe sie nur grün und blau rausgehen sehen. Nächsten Morgen. Ich habe gedacht, das ist Schwein von Mann. Männer, die Frauen schlagen, haben nichts im Kopf. Die sind alle dusselig.
Do you think Christian B could be responsible for the abduction and murder of Madeleine McCann?
Also, weiß ich nicht, aber wer Frauen schlägt, dem traue ich alles zu. Das ist für mich kein richtiger Mann.
Christian B committed another shocking assault whilst living at the Kiosk, one which would catch up with him in 2016 and ultimately lead to his arrest. Dina is a local German journalist who has been working with me as a researcher. We discussed distressing information describing the abuse of a child.
So the police get a report of a domestic incident that causes them to go to see Christian B at the kiosk. He's not there. They search it. What do they find?
Yeah. As a part of this investigation, they confiscated his computer and photographic equipment.
Right.
There they found child abuse material. On further research, they found that Christian B was in a relationship to a woman, a single mom.
Right.
She got a 5-year-old child. Christian B took this child to a park and made photos of her. On these photos, you could see that this girl was sitting in between his opened legs, and he was like showing his down, and he
exposing
was,
himself.
Yeah, and this was one thing, and the other thing the police found was like photos where he actively sexually assaulted this child by putting her underpanty away aside and touching her there.
So when the police go there, he's not there. So what do? He goes on the run, doesn't he?
During this time, unfortunately, Christian B already was not in Germany anymore. So police put like a warrant to arrest him.
Christian B had left Germany and gone back to Portugal and Praia de Luz. In 2017, he was arrested following a complaint that he had exposed himself in front of a young girl. He was not charged in connection to this allegation, but he was extradited back to Germany and convicted of the sexual assault of the 5-year-old girl in the Braunschweig Park. This was to add to his previous child abuse convictions in March and October 1994 for sexually assaulting 2 different children, and in 2012 for dealing in child abuse material.
Christian B is a dangerous paedophile. One thing that runs through his offending behaviour is he keeps the footage of his offences.
Next, I visit a property still owned by Christian B, where he allegedly committed more child sexual offences. My investigation continues in Braunschweig, Germany. The sex offending material found on Christian B's computers in the kiosk proved that Christian B had abused another child. But in a derelict box factory outside town, police uncovered an even larger stash of incriminating evidence. I'm meeting a barmaid called Carola, one of the few people Christian B took there.
Dass man so eine Person kennt, das ist erschreckend, das macht einen wütend. Scheiße, warum hat man das nicht gesehen?
You say you took him to a piece of land. Where was it and how did that come about?
Weil er mitgekriegt hat, dass wir dort einen Job auf dem Festival zu erledigen haben. Und er meinte, das ist doch meine Richtung, Richtung meine Heimat. Das, woran ich mich noch erinnere, ist, es war ein großes Stück Land, viel Wiese, hinten war Wald. Das sah für mich alles aus, als hätte er sich irgendwie ein Stück Land gekauft mit abgewrackten Gebäuden drauf. Kommt einem dann doch schon auch tagsüber komisch vor. Und da haben meine Kollegin und ich noch scherzhaft gesagt, Mensch, das ist ganz schön spooky hier. Wenn der hier jemanden verschwinden lässt, wird ja auch keiner mitkriegen.
Christian B bought the box factory around 2010 and used it as a second property whilst living at the Kiosk.
This is an exciting moment, you know, getting to the location where Christian B hid some of his offending behaviour. He was staying here in his camper van within the grounds. Abandoned factory, car, even a little kid's ball.
In 2016, the factory was searched by police after a dog walker was alerted to a strong and foul smell. It was a buried dog, which later turned out to be one of Christian B's, and under it was a cache of child abuse material.
This reminds me of a number of scenes that I've seen in my time in the police where children are taken to derelict buildings and sexually abused. Just in here, there's a bed. Looks very similar to some of the child abuse videos that I've seen. And, you know, you never forget them. You know, I don't try and second guess the thought process of individuals. I go on evidence because people behave differently. But experience tells you that people do things for certain reasons. And when you're at this location, it's a perfect location for somebody, if they wanted to hide things, to commit crime without being seen. And it does beg the question, why did he buy this property?
I've been given a very significant document about the police search by a source.
I can tell you, they found 8,000 files of child abuse material, including with children, animals, and the children were aged between 0, so that's babies, and 12-year-old. There were 100 files found which Christian B was in. So they could see him on camera, and they identified some of those abuse locations being here in the box factory and also at his flat beside the kiosk. They found a girl aged 4 to 5 and the mother, both of them posed in photographs. The child was not Madeleine, but was a blonde girl, but they've been unable to identify who that girl is. So who is that 4 to 5-year-old girl in films? How did he end up having access to children to bring them here? Was he alone when he committed the offences? Were other people with him? Is this part of a paedophile ring? Is there a number of other individuals working with Christian? And that for me is a real worrying concern. Because if you carry on that line of thought, then it gets pretty dark. How does he get that child? What if he wants to abuse a child whilst he's in Portugal? Does Madeleine fit that profile? Does he abduct Madeleine and take Madeleine to a location, sexually abuse her, but then realise the heat is really on and he has to get rid of her quickly? Does he have the capacity to kill?
I can find no record of Christian B being charged in connection with anything found at the box factory, but my visit to the site has really concerned me. Amongst the material found was a horrific online chat that Christian B had about molesting and torturing a child, and I've tracked down the person that Christian B was talking to.
So I'm on my way to try and speak to a man using the name PanicSpats66, who was in communication with Christian B. This is dated the 29th of September 2013.
This extract from the chat is very graphic and disturbing. It shows the real depravity of two people discussing child sexual abuse.
Up until now, nobody in the public domain, including the media, have known who Panic Spat 66 is. But I have found out. Hasn't taken a lot. I found him quite easily.
I find an address for him in a small town in southern Germany, and now I need to speak to him.
That one's open. This one's got shutters up.
I have a number, so I'm going to try calling him and set up an interview.
And who is Panic Spat 66? Is that you?
Unfortunately, I can't play the rest of the brief conversation I had with Panic Spat 66 because he would not give permission to use it. He did confirm he was Panic Spat 66 and that he had been in contact with the police, but he claims he never knew Christian B and could tell me no more.
What I find really interesting is the police use this chat between Christian B and Panic Spat 66 as being an important element of their theory. But what I struggle with is this is done in 2013, and Christian B is talking in the future tense. He's talking about, I want to get a young child to do this too. Not that I've done it, that I want to. So that would mean that he hasn't done it, and therefore in 2013, it can't possibly relate to Madeleine McCann.
Christian B has been linked to another child abduction, which took place in 2015 in Germany. As a result of Christian B being named prime suspect in Madeleine's disappearance, police investigated him for 5-year-old Inga Gehricke's abduction. There are some significant similarities. Inga is a blonde girl under 6 years. She disappeared 8 years and 1 day after Madeleine, while she was on a family trip away with friends. We know that Christian B was in the region in May 2015. The location Inga vanished from is less than an hour's drive away from his box factory. And like Madeleine, Inga's whereabouts remain unknown. Inga's dad has never given a TV interview before.
Es ist der Ort, wo ich Inga zuletzt gesehen und erlebt habe. Ich habe ein paar Blumen, werde jetzt ein paar Blumen und mich noch mal an sie erinnern.
Now 6 years on, he's agreed to spend some time with me discussing his daughter's case to see if it could be connected in any way to Madeleine's disappearance.
Thank you for talking to me. This is going to be really difficult. I can't imagine for one moment what you and the family have had to go through all these years. But it's really important to take you back to the day that Inga disappeared.
Ja, ist okay.
Okay.
Wir waren an diesem 2. Mai 2015 eingeladen von einer befreundeten Familie, die auf dem Wilhelmshof lebt und arbeitet. Wir hatten eigentlich einen angenehmen Tag verbracht. Muss ich überlegen. Dann haben sich die Kinder noch ein bisschen beschäftigt, waren auf dem Spielplatz. Dann war noch ein Fußballspiel, was wir...
Jens's friend worked for the Christian organisation that owned the house and grounds, providing a public guest house and social care to the most vulnerable in society.
Kam dann der Vorschlag von der Gastgeberfamilie, ob wir dann nicht auch bis zum Abendbrot bleiben wollten. Inga war die letzte Zeit viel mit den anderen Kindern unterwegs. Und ich weiß noch, ich wollte ihr dann irgendwann auch ihre Jacke geben, weil es dann abends so ein bisschen frisch wurde. Und da hatte ich sie dann auch nicht mehr gesehen.
Who first raised the alarm that Inga had gone missing?
Das war die große Tochter unserer Gastgeberfamilie, die nach Inga dann schauen wollte und dann zurückkam und sagte, ich habe Inga nicht gefunden. Der erste Gedanke war, sie hat sich irgendwie verstecken wollen, ist in den Wald und hat nicht wieder zurückgefunden. Aber nach einer Stunde, in der wir Inga nicht gefunden haben, wurde dann die Polizei informiert. Suchmannschaften ausgeschwärmt sind und dass Hubschrauber unterwegs waren, die Inga gesucht haben mit Wärmebildkameras. Und wir haben jede Minute damit gerechnet, dass jemand kommt und sagt, wir haben sie. Sie ist wieder da, alles ist gut. Haben einfach gehofft, das löst sich irgendwann schnell auf. Der Horror geht schnell vorbei, aber das war es nicht. Es blieb eben so und das ist ja bis heute ungeklärt.
Over my years, I've dealt with a lot of families who have lost loved ones, missing, murdered. And initially, they get a lot of support from the police, by the media, the coverage. But there comes a point when they're on their own, when everything else disappears and you are literally on your own. Do you worry that people have moved on?
Ja, das denke ich. Das denke ich. So gut wie kein Kontakt mehr zur Polizei oder Staatsanwalt. Das macht mich hier wahnsinnig.
In 2020, the prosecutor in Brunswick made a very significant announcement that they were considering Christian B as the prime suspect for the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. As a result of that, Inga's case got a lot of attention as being connected to Christian B. What did you make of that?
Ja, ich hatte da große Hoffnung drauf, dass in dem Zusammenhang dann auch das Verschwinden von Inga doch endlich aufgeklärt wird. Hab aber von der Staatsanwaltschaft Stendal erfahren müssen, dass keine Verbindung zu dem Herrn B. und dem Fall Inga hergestellt werden kann.
Do you think you'll ever see Inga again?
Ich wünsche es mir. Ich wünsche es mir sehr. Aber glauben tue ich nicht dran. Ich denke, sie ist tot. Ich möchte endlich wissen, was passiert ist. Ich möchte dann vielleicht auch trauern dürfen. Und will die Erklärung dafür.
After months of investigation, the police have now ruled out Christian B as being responsible for Inga's disappearance. I know from working with families who have lost loved ones the desperate need for answers and some kind of closure. But what of the case against him in relation to Madeleine McCann? After 4 years of police investigation and much media hype, Christian B remains the prime suspect but has not been charged or even interviewed. I need to find out more from the German prosecutor, Hans Wolters. Do you have evidence linking Christian B directly forensically to the murder of Madeleine McCann?
Wir haben keine forensischen Beweise für den Tod von Madeleine McCann.
You've been very clear to say that Madeleine is dead. Where was she killed?
In Portugal.
Do you believe her body remains in Portugal or was taken outside of the country?
Wo der Körper jetzt ist, kann ich nicht sagen. Wenn wir das wüssten, dann hätte man sicherlich gefunden.
So how specific can the police be about Christian B's whereabouts on the night Madeleine disappeared using the 680 telephone number? Is it still the position that you believe Christian B was using the telephone number ending 680 when Madeleine disappeared?
Ja, wir gehen nach wie vor davon aus, dass diese Nummer von Christian B. benutzt wurde am Abend des Verschwindens von Madeleine McCann.
So are you telling me that on the 3rd of May you can place Christian B using the telephone number ending 680 outside Madeleine's apartment?
Ja, nach allem, was wir wissen, ist das tatsächlich so. Aber wir brauchen diesen Gesprächspartner, damit dieser Gesprächspartner uns auch noch mal sagen kann, mit wem er dieses Telefonat tatsächlich geführt hat.
The person who called the telephone ending 680 has still not been traced. So what next for the German investigation? Are you confident you will charge him with the murder of Madeleine McCann?
Wenn wir nicht davon ausgehen würden, dass wir ihn anklagen könnten, dann müssten wir die Ermittlungen ja streng genommen einstellen. Wir haben Gott sei Dank alle Zeit, die wir brauchen. Christian B. ist für uns verfügbar. Er sitzt noch die nächste Zeit in Haft. Das heißt, wir haben keinen zeitlichen Druck und da macht es aus unserer Sicht tatsächlich keinen Sinn, jetzt irgendwie einen Schnellschuss zu produzieren, um einfach nur das Ganze vor Gericht zu bringen.
Mr. Wolters is adamant that Christian B. abducted and murdered Madeleine. Yet after this interview, I am no clearer as to the specific evidence he has and how he has come to that conclusion. But perhaps they have a key piece of evidence that we don't know about. The one person who can answer all of these questions is Christian B. I've had another response from him. He's changed his mind about talking to me face to face, but I'm going to continue to write to him to see if he'll reconsider. One person in contact with Christian B is his defence lawyer, Mr. Fulcher. He is scathing of the German prosecutor and claims they have no evidence at all.
Dieser Fall ist komplett außergewöhnlich und auch in jeder Hinsicht.
Next, I reveal how the case has become a battleground between prosecutor and defence, and caught somewhere in between is the truth. After 4 years of investigation, no charges have been brought against Christian B in connection with Madeleine's disappearance. The case has become a war of words between the prosecution and the defence.
What did you make of the announcement from Mr. Walters, the German prosecutor, that Christian B was the prime suspect for the disappearance and murder of Madeleine McCann?
Ja, da muss ich ganz ehrlich sagen, das Verhalten der Staatsanwaltschaft Braunschweig ist für mich fast skandalös. Wiederholt, wir haben den richtigen, wir haben Beweise, dass das Mädchen tot ist und er sie umgebracht hat. Dem Beschuldigten wird aber nicht die Möglichkeit gegeben, diesem Vorwurf auch entgegenzutreten.
What communication or evidence have the German prosecutors, Mr. Walters, given you about your client, Christian B, being responsible?
Also diese Frage impliziert ja, dass es überhaupt Beweise gibt. Ja?
Is Christian B responsible for Madeleine's disappearance?
Meiner Auffassung nach nein.
He denies it.
Selbstverständlich.
Christian B's lawyer believes he is innocent, although he also states that he is yet to see the prosecution case files.
My understanding from Mr. Walters is that on the 3rd of May, Christian B was using the telephone number ending 680 in Praia de Luz, and therefore that makes him outside Madeleine McCann's apartment and responsible. Is that your understanding?
Das ist das, wovon die Staatsanwaltschaft ausgeht. Meine Informationen sind andere. In meinen Augen ist das eine relativ wackelige Annahme, weil man zum einen feststellen müsste, wer hat das Telefon zu dieser Zeit wirklich genutzt, wenn es überhaupt seine Telefonnummer war.
Christian B was in Praia de Luz, though, in May 2007, and in particular on the 3rd of May. He was in that area, wasn't he?
Dazu äußere ich mich nicht. Das sind, wo er wann gewesen ist etwas, was den Kern des Falles betrifft. Und das diskutiere ich nicht in den Medien.
Why are they so convinced in Germany, Mr. Walters, that Christian B is responsible?
Ja, das wüsste ich auch gerne.
Christian B is currently in jail for the rape of a 72-year-old in Praia de Luz. 2 witnesses, Manfred Seyferth and Helga Busching, testified in that case that videotapes they found in Christian B's home showed him violently sexually assaulting 2 different women.
Do you believe the evidence of Manfred Seyferth and Helga Busching is correct? Did that camera video exist?
Ich kann es mir nach meinem derzeitigen Kenntnisstand nicht vorstellen. Es wurde nicht.
Christian B's defence lawyer also believes that Helga Busching is a key witness in the Madeleine McCann investigation.
Ich halte diese beiden Zeugenaussagen für absolut unglaubhaft. Ganz bemerkenswert ist, dass dieser eine Belastungszeuge derselbe ist, der Christian in dem Mordfall Madeleine McCann belastet. Da sind wir uns sehr, sehr sicher, dass das der Fall ist.
I have a second source confirming that Helga Busching is indeed a key witness in Madeleine's case. I am told Busching's claim is that Christian B confessed to him at a music festival in 2008 that he is responsible for Madeleine's disappearance but then took almost 10 years to tell the police this information. I need to speak to Bushing, but whilst I try to get hold of him, what does his friend and supporting witness Manfred Seyferth have to say?
Why, 10 years later, does Helga decide to tell the police?
Keine Erklärung für. Bei Helge gibt es manche Dinge, die sind nicht erklärbar. Keine Erklärung für.
But Helga was in trouble himself when he contacted the police. Do you think Helga's sentence was reduced because he gave evidence against Christian B?
Kann ich mir nicht vorstellen.
He must have thought there was some benefit for him, because he's hardly the type of person to start going to the police and giving evidence on other people, is he?
Habe ich keine Ahnung und ich gehe auch nicht auf die aus freien Stücken zur Polizei zu gehen, bestimmt nicht, aber...
I have also heard from various sources that Bushing and Seyferth were paid for the evidence they gave for the prosecution of Christian B for the rape of the 72-year-old.
Has Helga been paid for any of the evidence he's given in relation to Christian B?
Ja, in Braunschweig hat Geld bekommen für die Aussage, die er macht hat, Zeugengeld, Arbeitsausfall, tralala, das ist alles bezahlt worden, ja.
And did they pay you as well? Did they give you some money to come to court to give evidence?
Keine Ahnung, 500 und noch was und den Hund in die Pension da in Italien und Taxi dann zurück, weil nicht geht und...
So just to be clear, the German authorities, in order for you to give evidence against Christian B, they paid for your flights, your taxis, they covered the cost of your dog being looked after, and they gave you 500 euros.
Ja.
Is Helga Bushing a truthful man or a fantasist?
Das heißt ein Fantast. Wie meinst du das? Dass er da lügt in der Sache oder wie, weiß ich nicht. Nee, Helge ist, nochmal zu mir ist es immer korrekt.
Expenses can be paid to witnesses in the UK and Germany for loss of earnings and subsistence. But can Bushing's alleged claim that Christian B confessed to him about Madeleine be relied upon? I have tracked down Bushing, but he refuses to speak in any detail. He did, however, confirm his claim that Christian B confessed to him, but he would not tell me what he said. My inquiries around Bushing pay off. A contact sends me a video recording of him talking to another person, where he says he will give details, but for a price.
So that was fascinating. I can't show you the video, unfortunately, because I've been given it by a source and it hasn't been cleared by Helga. He's wearing this flap jacket, which is clearly French police. And he's not just wearing that, he's got his face covered with some kind of mask. And this is how the conversation goes. So he says that he wants money, but he doesn't want it directly to him. He wants 50,000 euros transferred to the McCann's fund. And only when that's done will he talk. He says this is very dangerous. You should not get involved in this case. This is the really key bit. He says he and Christian B know it all. His credibility after having watched this video is in real doubt. I think Helga's evidence has to be treated with real caution.
Having a key witness like Bushing as part of the case against Christian B for the abduction and murder of Madeleine does concern me. I get information from a contact in Praia-de-Luz about a central part of the prosecution case, the mobile phone call made on the night Madeleine disappeared. Was the number ending 680 really being used by Christian B that night? And if so, does that phone place him outside Madeleine's apartment? I'm heading back to Portugal to test the evidence. German police say they believe that Christian B is the user of the mobile number ending 680. But how close to Madeleine's apartment can the user of 680 actually be placed on the night she disappeared?
Behind me is the mast where 680 pinged on the night Madeleine disappeared, and just 200 yards up here is the Ocean Club where Madeleine vanished from.
The case has haunted local residents for 13 years, and they have been doing their own private investigations on the mobile phone data and the locations of the cell masts that existed in 2007. One of the group is Jim McCallum, and he's asked to meet me to explain his theory. They have no professional experience or formal qualifications in this area, but it's worth hearing what Jim has to say.
The mast is effectively in the centre of loose.
Yeah.
And we know that the distance from the next cell is 6 kilometres.
So the user of 680 was within 6 kilometres of the Prior-Deleuze mast, but we cannot be any more specific than that.
Correct.
We cannot say that the user of 680 was by or near Madeleine's apartment, can we?
In terms of geographical distance, no.
This map shows all the mobile phone masts around Prior-Deleuze in May 2007. We know that the 680 phone connected to the Prior-Deleuze mast, which has a range of 35 kilometres, and that you can't fix a phone location from just one mast. But even if the Prior-Deleuze mast was the closest one to the 680 user, it still covers a large area surrounding Prior-Deleuze. So we cannot say that the user was outside the Ocean Club. All we can say for certain is that they were within 35 kilometres of the Prior-Deleuze mast. This could be a massive problem for the prosecution's case, but overnight I get a call that could affect their whole investigation. My colleague, Portuguese journalist João Gardinho, has been working alongside me and has covered Madeleine's disappearance from the start.
Morning, Mark. Morning, mate.
How are you?
Good. Yeah. Listen, I got a phone call last night, late last night, with a piece of information which does offer a completely different perspective.
Really?
So my call last night is that the number 680 that we are told was being used on the evening of the 3rd of May 2007 by Christian B. But that might not be true.
It's a massive development that it would turn around the whole investigation, I believe.
My source, who won't be identified, just won't be identified, too close to how they got the information.
My source is official, and they showed me a document proving that between April and December 2006, the 680 number was being used by a German friend of Christian B's. This person lives just outside Ferrol, a 40-minute drive from Prior-Deleuze, the same village that Christian B was parked, living in his van around the time that Madeleine disappeared. Central to the German case is that Christian B was using the 680 number on the night Madeleine vanished. But was he? I'm now going to see the man I'm told was using that number 5 months before Madeleine was taken, to see what he has to say. I just hope he will talk to me.
But let me come in and just literally come in, explain. He can listen to me. I'll tell him what I've got to say, and he can make his mind up. But he could help. He could massively help.
So frustrating. I need to confirm if he was using 680 in 2007. But given he won't talk to me, I must find another way. During this investigation, I have established a direct line of communication with Mr. Wolters, the German prosecutor. Now I need to put to him this new information about the phone.
I just had a chat with the prosecutor. So the telephone number 680. He has a witness, and that witness has told them, that Christian was using that number, but not on the 3rd of May. We have no evidence that says that he was using it on the 3rd of May. All we have is one witness saying that that telephone number was being used by Christian B at some stage prior to Madeleine's disappearance. He's saying they'd had a couple of phone calls, and every time they rang, Christian B answered the phone. That's their evidence. And that witness, we now know, is a woman. That woman has no previous convictions, and for them is of good character. They don't have him on the phone on the 3rd of May in Prior. They don't have anyone other than one female witness telling them he used that phone 680. Why not? What about all the other people that Christian B must have been in contact with? Not one of them. Yeah, we're over a year now, and there's not one other person who's come forward and said Christian B was using that number 680. Nobody. Why? Why?
So this means no one, it seems, can place Christian B in Praia da Luz on the night Madeleine disappeared. Also, there are real questions about the credibility of one of the prosecution's key witnesses.
As I start to investigate this more and more, the castle's falling down.
Christian B's lawyer, Mr. Fulcher, has said. Christian B has said.
Portuguese prosecutors have officially made a German man a suspect over the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
It's a crime that has haunted one family for over 15 years.
Please, if you have Madeleine, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
I'm Mark Williams-Thomas, a former British detective turned journalist with over 30 years' experience investigating some of the biggest cases in the UK and worldwide. Just days after Madeleine was abducted, I was on the ground reporting.
The marina offers an easy access very quickly out to sea.
And I've been trying to solve the case ever since. In 2020 came the biggest breakthrough in 13 years. German authorities announced they had a prime suspect.
The suspect is a 43-year-old German national.
He is Christian B, a sex offender, paedophile and burglar. But 2 years on, police have not yet charged him. I'll be testing their evidence, uncovering new witnesses and pursuing a meeting with the prime suspect himself to find out if this man is the missing link in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
Abandoned factory, car, even a little kid's ball.
Having visited Christian B's hideout, I now have a real sense of his offending.
All kinds of sexual abuse, including with children, animals, and the children were aged between babies and 12-year-old.
And the crucial phone number ending 683, which police suspect called Christian B 19 minutes before Madeleine disappeared, is currently owned by a German user of paedophile websites.
Child abuse webcams, pedo webcams, little cams. This person who took over 683 is active themselves in a paedophile chat room.
But I've also raised doubts that the phone number called by 683 on the night of Madeleine's disappearance actually belonged to Christian B.
There's not one other person who's come forward and said Christian B was using that number 680. Nobody. Why? Why? As I start to investigate this more and more, the castle's falling down.
Now I'm bringing together the final threads of my investigation, and there's some critical elements to nail. Can Christian B be placed for certain in Praia da Luz the night Madeleine was taken? Can we trust his alleged confession to a former associate? Does the evidence he abducted Madeleine stack up? And will Christian B now talk to me himself? First, I want to follow up on the crucial phone call on the night of Madeleine's disappearance. Police suspect a number ending 683 called Christian B while he was in the Praia da Luz area. My colleague, cyber analyst Martin Kays, has tracked this number to a German paedophile website user and made contact with them.
I just want an update on 683. How are you doing?
The current user of that account we discussed have basically vanished. They're not responding to emails anymore, and their presence seems to have vanished from the dark web.
So what do we know? If Christian B was using 680, that would connect him in conversation with 683 user, a possible child sex offender.
The current 683 user denies having the phone number in 2007 when Madeleine was taken. But the police still suspect that Christian B could have been discussing the abduction of Madeleine with 683 on that night. Christian B's online records clearly show him discussing paedophile films of him abusing very young girls.
Alec Martin.
He shared these images of abuse online via the so-called dark web with other paedophile website users. Martin is an expert on how the dark web works, and he's been trawling paedophile websites and chat rooms to see if he can connect this kind of activity with Madeleine's disappearance. What follows is a graphic and disturbing online exchange.
Back in 2011, there was a lot of chat around Madeleine on the dark web, wasn't there?
Yes, the talk about it on the forums was unprecedented. So this is from a now defunct paedophile board. This is a particularly nasty conversation. I only wish that if there are any pictures or vids that they are posted for the whole wide world to enjoy. Yes, I know they'll be like gold, but come on, let us all enjoy it.
Sick.
There's another user here called Pedo Bear who said, Maddie has obviously been snapped up by a pedo better than us.
Oh, that's horrific, isn't it?
It's very common for paedophiles to collect hundreds or thousands of gigabytes of images and videos, and then they boast about it.
If we look at our suspect, Christian B, we know the material that was found at the box factory had information, he'd shared it with other known paedophiles.
Yes.
He's an avid sharer of child abuse images.
Yes, sharing, and he even sold some.
Christian B's offending profile suggests that had he taken Madeleine, he may have filmed her and shared the images online.
What's interesting is Madeleine's picture has never turned up on the dark web.
I've done a lot of research back then and again now, and images of Maddie just don't exist.
I mean, what does that tell us of the likelihood of it being Christian B?
If it was him, he hasn't shared the images, and that's not characteristic of his behaviour.
The police have never found any images of Madeleine on any of Christian B's devices, but it's possible there are still places to search. Police say they have investigated every address of interest associated with Christian B. But there's another property he rented for 3 years in his hometown, with a cellar underneath. Jürgen Konstra arranged the lease on the property.
Did you ever see him here with anybody else?
Also war nur mit seiner Freundin hier und war sehr jung.
Christian B's allotment in Hanover was searched by German police in 2020, but he also rented this second garden home in Braunschweig.
Once it became known that Christian B rented this house, have you had contact with the police and have they now searched this?
Den Garten, das hätte ich ja mitgekriegt, wenn sie da irgendwo gebuddelt hätten. Ja. So wie in Hannover, wo sie mit dem Bagger waren, das hätte ich mitgekriegt.
Jürgen tells me he heard that the federal BKA police visited the site once, but they have never conducted a full search.
Have you spoken to the current tenant whether or not she has given permission for the house to be searched inside?
Ich weiß nur, dass sie mit dem BKA telefoniert hat und hat zwar jetzt Antwort gekriegt, dass sie kein Interesse hier dran haben. Das hat sie mir gesagt, mehr weiß ich auch nicht.
Given what we now know about Christian B, and that they searched his other allotment in Hanover, are you surprised that the police haven't searched the grounds or the house?
Ja, das hat mich schon verwundert, dass sie hier nicht aufgetreten sind. Also ich habe keinen Kontakt mit der Polizei gehabt. Die haben mich nie irgendwelchen Sachen gefragt.
While Christian B was here in 2016, police searched his Kiosk apartment and found a film of him abusing a 5-year-old girl. They later found over 8,000 child abuse files at a derelict box factory he owned. Then, in April 2016, Christian B suddenly left here, around the time the Kiosk child abuse film was discovered.
Christian B films his abuse of children. He then collects it and keeps it. We know that because what the police found at the box factory, and the police have ruled this place out. They haven't even bothered searching the garden or the house, which would not take very long. Major failing.
Christian B has a profile of a prime suspect for abducting Madeleine, but I've been testing the strength of the German prosecutor's evidence to directly connect him to her disappearance. And I get a call from a source close to Christian B that could change everything.
We've got someone saying that night they were with him. But why hasn't this come out? I can't quite believe what I've been told. That on the night of Madeleine's disappearance, Christian B was with a woman outside of Pride de Luz and spent the night with her. And if that's true, can't have been involved in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. I now need to find this woman as quickly as possible and get her to give me her account.
There's been a major development in my investigation into whether Christian B could have abducted Madeleine McCann. He may have an alibi, a woman he claimed he was seeing the week Madeleine disappeared. But before trying to speak to her, I'm assessing the strength of the police evidence against him. Sandra Felgueiras is a Portuguese journalist who interviewed the McCanns in 2007. I've known her since the story of Madeleine's disappearance first broke.
So, 14 years on, I remember the first time I met you was properly at that press conference. And here we are.
And still today, with the same questions.
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happened?
yeah.
And I'm keen to know what she makes of the German police's focus on Christian B and the phone numbers at the centre of their case.
I was very, very surprised when CB's story came up because we've never heard of him. We were talking each other. I remember to talk to you.
Yeah.
There's any pedophile here? And the answer was, no, of course not.
What do you understand the German authorities have on Christian B that places him in Pride de Luz on May 2007?
They say that number belonged at that time to CB. But I don't know which kind of material evidence they have. And they insist Christian B is connected. So I wonder, do you have photos? Do you have videos? I presume, as a reporter, they must have stuff like this. But they've never said.
So do you have doubts about Christian B? What's your gut telling you?
I think that CB fits the profile, but if you can make evidence that that number didn't belong to him, we have a problem. Because all this investigation begins with this statement. So if this is not true, I don't know how can they connect CB to that crime.
The first and most important allegation in the German case against Christian B remains that a phone number ending 680 places him in Pride de Luz 90 minutes before Madeleine's disappearance. But I've now seen a document from a source claiming number 680 was being used by a German friend of Christian B 5 months before Madeleine vanished. His testimony could change the whole case if I could just get him to talk. It's becoming frustrating because I know he is there, but he won't engage at all. I'm told he owned 680, not Christian B. There's only one person that can confirm it, and that is this man here. He is so vital. But can I get him to talk to me? Last throw of the dice. Hello? Oh, there's someone there. A lady. She's coming out. How are you? My name's Mark Williams-Thomas. I'm a former British detective, and I'm investigating the Christian B case. The man's wife doesn't want to appear on camera, but is happy for us to record the audio of our conversation about her husband's phone use. I've established the crucial telephone number ending 680 was actually his telephone number because he was using that 680 number during the period of 2006 when Christian B was in jail. Does that make sense?
The whole time since we are here, he has the same telephone number.
And it's not 680?
Wait a second. 964.
Okay, so it's a different number than that. I've seen it written in black and white. I'm at pains to understand how he would answer the telephone number 680.
I don't know.
The question is, I suppose, did he have another number or was he with somebody who had that number?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care. Okay. Thank you, bye-bye. Really lovely lady. She has given me his telephone number. She says for the whole period of time that she's been living here, he's had the same telephone number. But what she can't say is whether he uses another telephone number and communicates on it. She said, I don't know. She said, I would always phone him on one number, but that doesn't mean to say he hasn't got a different telephone number. Just when I thought I'd hit a brick wall with the 680 number, I get a break. Another potential confirmation that Christian B was using 680 in Germany. Just had a phone call from a guy in the bar, and he says there's another man in here who has got Christian B's telephone number. If it's true, this could be a real breakthrough for us, because it could be the 680. He's going to come and meet me down from the bar now. Hello. Hello. Longhurst often helped Christian B out. He drove his Mercedes van to the box factory on one occasion and knew him from the kiosk in town.
Ja, ich habe ihn einmal gesehen, bin in den Laden gekommen, in den Kiosk, wollte Tabak kaufen. Und da stand ein kleines Mädchen, das war so 7 bis 9 Jahre, schätze ich. Dann ist sie rausgegangen und dann sagt er zu mir, die ist aber süß. Die sind süß, die Kleinen. Und ich sagte, natürlich, klar, ne, sind sie süß, ist ja. Ich habe mir aber nichts dabei gedacht. Ich weiß nicht, was er dabei gedacht hat, keine Ahnung. Ich habe die Angewohnheit, ich habe ein Telefonbuch und da schreibe ich immer alle Nummern rein, alle, die ich bekomme. Und da habe ich den wiedergefunden.
And that's his telephone number?
Ja.
Great.
He gave me this number. Kann aber helfen, Christian B. ist gestorben.
Thank you very much. This is a new number, but of course years later, not in 2006 or 2007. And so unfortunately hasn't taken me any further to confirm that 680 belongs to Christian B. But what it's telling me is that Christian B might have had a number of different telephone numbers. And we know that because of the activities he was involved in. So he was exchanging his phones, not regularly, but certainly changing them. I now turn my attention to the police's second major line of investigation. The Christian B re-registered his vehicle in Germany the day after Madeleine disappeared. Police say that this red Jaguar is one of the cars that Christian B was driving around that time. He registered it to a new owner, his former friend and landlord, Alexander Bischoff, and to his address near Munich, Germany. And with the help of reporter Dina, we track him down.
Hello?
Bin da, Bischof.
The police and prosecutors make it suspicious that the car was registered to you on the 4th of May, the day after Madeleine disappeared. Is that suspicious?
Ja, die Planung, die war eigentlich schon, ich sag mal, aus der Erinnerung, ein paar Wochen früher, weil erwähnt hat, dass es mit München jetzt nicht mehr geht.
und dass da irgendwie das Auto anderweitig zulassen möchte, dass damit fahren kann und dass halt flexibel ist. Das hat ja auch Sinn gemacht, nachdem ja auf Jobsuche quasi war, so wie mir erzählt hat mir die Unterlagen zugeschickt und ich habe das Auto dann zugelassen.
Alexander, did you know about his previous sexual offending, with children when he was living at your place?
No. Da muss ich sagen, nein. Da haben wir eigentlich nie drüber gesprochen.
What do you make of the allegation that Christian B is involved in the disappearance and murder of Madeleine McCann? You spent a lot of time with him over quite a number of years. What do you think?
Ich hätte das niemals für möglich gehalten, dass zu so einem Kapitalverbrechen, also dass man ihm so etwas zumuten kann, das hätte ich ihm niemals zugetraut.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As far as I'm concerned, the Jaguar has got nothing to do with it. It's a complete red herring. Yes. It's just simply, he was getting rid of a car and it happened to be registered on the 4th of May. All that paperwork had been done previous to that.
The third key piece of evidence linking Christian B to Madeleine that I know about is an alleged confession. Helga Bushing, a former friend, claimed Christian B confessed to him while at a music festival. But Bushing did not tell police or anyone else until almost 10 years later. Bushing also testified to police that he had seen videos of Christian B sexually assaulting 2 women. The police have never found the tapes, but Bushing's friend Manfred Seaforth testified in court that they had shown them to a bar owner in the only bar in Santa Clara, an hour north of Praia de Luz.
Francis, you used to own the bar in the town. Tell me about that.
I did. I used to own a chaminade in Santa Clara.
Do you remember Helga?
I only remembered when we went through all my photographs. I did remember his face. He must have come just a few times.
So I'm after information on a very specific period of time. 2006, 2007, Helga Bushell and Manfred both say that during that period of time, they were in your bar and they showed a woman the video of another person being raped that they'd taken from Christian B's house. Is that you?
Couldn't have been. There's just no way.
Why?
I ran the place with my son and he would have called the police.
They are very clear that they showed it to a woman in the bar. Did you have other females working?
No, there was obviously other women that come to the bar, but I'm the only woman that ever worked there. Ever. It's a red herring.
If Bushing's sexual assault video testimony is unreliable, it could put into real doubt his account that Christian B confessed.
It is really important because Helga is central to the German prosecution's case. He is a key witness. He is the man that gave the evidence to the police that Christian B is responsible because Christian B has told him he's murdered Madeleine McCann. And if his witness evidence in relation to the tapes being shown to a woman in the bar in Santa Clara can be shown to be false, what else of his evidence is false?
I now have serious concerns about all 3 key pieces of evidence I've seen that underpin the German prosecutor's case that Christian B took Madeleine. The 680 mobile number may not have belonged to Christian B. Christian B re-registering his car appears unrelated to Madeleine, and Helga Bushing's confession claim may not be reliable. So, do the police have other evidence they are not telling us about? Before I can find out, I'm forwarded a letter from Christian B himself.
So I'm going to talk quietly because I've just got something which is really, really significant. I've tried right from day one to speak to Christian B, and then this morning he's written me a letter. Dear Mr. Williams-Thomas, I would appreciate you visit me in my castle to give you the key you are looking for. This really is a massive, massive opportunity for us now to get to the heart of it. He hasn't engaged with anybody. until now.
The more I look into the German prosecutor's case against Christian B, the more it appears that their evidence is crumbling. I've come to Germany to speak to Hans Walters of the German Prosecution Service about the strength of their evidence, starting with the claim that Christian B received a call on the 680 mobile number, placing him in the Praia de Luz area.
Is it possible that 680 was in fact not being used by Christian B, but by somebody else?
Es ist natürlich immer möglich, dass ein Telefon von jemandem anders benutzt wird als von demjenigen, der es üblicherweise nutzt. Ein Telefon kann man verleihen, ein Telefon kann man verlieren, Telefone kann man auch verkaufen.
How close can you place the user of 680 to Madeleine McCann's apartment in Praia de Luz on the 3rd of May? My understanding is that it could be as far as 35 kilometres away, or it could be 6 or 7 kilometres away from Madeleine's apartment.
Natürlich ist es so, dass Funkzellen immer einen größeren räumlichen Bereich abdecken. Das ist auch dann tatsächlich davon abhängig, an welche Wetterverhältnisse an diesem Tag.
I move on to Christian B's vehicles.
The white and yellow camper van, though, was very significant, and you did release details of that. What have you been able to establish?
Aber es ist tatsächlich so, dass diese Fahrzeuge für uns eine große Rolle spielen im Rahmen der Ermittlungen, weil Christian B. eben diese Fahrzeuge in Portugal genutzt hat. Über die Ergebnisse dieser Ermittlungen kann ich aber im Moment nichts sagen.
Have you forensically examined that vehicle? And is there a connection to Madeleine, to that vehicle and Christian B?
Was ich sagen kann, ist, dass wir keinen forensischen Beweis haben dafür, dass Madeleine tot ist. Zu anderen Ergebnissen unserer Untersuchung kann ich im Moment nichts sagen. Wo der Körper jetzt ist, kann ich nicht sagen. Wenn wir das wüssten, dann hätte man ihn sicherlich gefunden.
So just to be clear, you don't have forensic evidence that links Christian B. to Madeleine having been murdered?
Wir haben keine forensischen Beweise für den Tod von Madeleine McCann.
Are you investigating anyone else?
No.
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 Just him.
Okay.
He absolutely believes that Christian murdered Madeleine McCann in Portugal. No doubt about it at all. I have serious concerns over the evidence they have. When you start to narrow down on where that evidence could exist, it falls apart. They don't have compelling evidence in relation to 680 belonging to him. They don't have compelling evidence that 680 was used by him on the 3rd of May. They don't have compelling evidence that he was outside Madeleine's apartment. That is all incredibly flimsy. He's pinned his nail on the donkey, and it's probably on the nose rather than on the tail.
A huge part of this case rests on pinning down exactly where Christian B. was when Madeleine vanished. Now I have a chance to find this out. A source close to Christian B. has told me that he believes he has an alibi for the night of Madeleine's disappearance. He says for a 2-week period he was seeing an 18-year-old girl in Carvalheiro, 25 miles away from Praia de Luz.
Christian B. is saying he was seeing a young girl who was on holiday with her parents in this town. And around 8 o'clock, most nights, he would arrive in his camper van, she would come out of the apartment, and she would sleep in the camper van with him until the early hours of the morning, and then he would leave to go home. That is his alibi.
I'm hoping to question Christian B. face to face, but first, I must see if these claims of an alibi stand up to scrutiny.
Up until now, Christian B. has not spoken at all about this period of time, May 2007. Of course, 3rd of May, that's when Madeleine goes missing. He is saying that during the period of 2 weeks prior to the 10th of May, he was with a young girl most evenings.
I'm told there is evidence of this alibi.
He is saying that on the 10th of May, he took this young girl to the airport because she was leaving the country.
While she was there, she was stopped for carrying pepper spray.
There is a document which puts that date connected to her with her name at the airport.
But Christian B is not mentioned in the police record, so it cannot verify his location.
But there's more. On the 9th of May, he is saying he got stopped with her in his camper van at a police checkpoint, and they took a photograph of both him and her.
After Madeleine disappeared on the 3rd of May, the police surrounded Praia da Luz with roadblocks. My colleague in this investigation, Portuguese journalist João Godinho, has checked the police records from 14 years ago.
João, Christian B is saying that on the Friday the 9th, so a number of days after Madeleine disappeared, he was with the young girl in his camper van and he was stopped at a roadblock along this road. Were roadblocks happening at that time?
So definitely that's possible, because after Madeleine disappeared, they put them out for days after the disappearance, trying to find any lead.
Christian B is saying the police took photographs of him, the girl, and the vehicle. You've asked the police whether those photographs still exist. What have they told you?
Well, they told me they don't keep records that long. I mean, it was 14 years ago, so they don't have it any longer.
What we can't validate is whether or not it happened to him, because those photographs don't exist.
My assumption is that it may be true. It's quite possible.
It's possible, but not proven. The best way to test Christian B's alibi would be to speak to the young woman herself. I managed to track her down to Germany, in a small, quiet town, where she lives now, aged 32, with her partner, and I have her address.
So literally just up around the corner here is the home address of the most important witness for this whole investigation. I've been here for hours watching the address, and there's been no movement at all.
It's a delicate situation. I want to make sure she answers the door so that I can speak to her privately.
I'm having to tread really carefully, because what I don't want to do is upset or destroy her life, but she is his alibi, and therefore I need to get to the bottom of that. So my thought is to send her an email. So here goes. I've done it in English, and then I've also done translate in German. Go on. Fingers crossed.
I returned to the house the next day, but by lunchtime, Christian B's alibi has not returned my email. She may be nervous about talking to me, and her partner may know nothing about her alleged fling.
It's a hard decision to make. Do I wait? Or do I go and bang on the door and see if she's there? If she is living with someone, they could be at work and they could come back, and that would then potentially scup her talking to me. She's such a vital witness. Let's give it a go. Hello? 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 Hello?
But it's her partner who answers the door.
So, I am a former detective. I'm investigating Christian B in relation to Madeleine McCann. Christian B is using her as an alibi. Did you know that? Take care. Bye-bye. I've managed to get some really important information. I spoke to her partner, who has told me that during May 2007, she was in Portugal. He describes it. I showed him a document that says that she was in Portugal, Faro, on the 10th of May 2007. He said, "You've got good information." And I said, well, that's 7 days after Madeleine disappeared. And I asked him, was she with him that night? And he basically says, She can't be sure. It's 14 years ago. She cannot remember. But he does say, from her account, she was there in May 2007. I'm excited because I'm now filling in those little missing pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that nobody else has got. It's not rubbish, it's not fabrication. Perhaps he is telling the truth.
My investigation has revealed that Christian B's claimed alibi is potentially plausible, but we cannot be sure of the dates. However, it does appear that in the week after Madeleine's disappearance, he continued to go about his normal life and his behaviour remained the same. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Ho may be able to assess if Christian B's behaviour is consistent with him having abducted and possibly killed Madeleine.
Morning, David. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I know you're busy.
No problems.
He has worked at Broadmoor Hospital and examined some of the UK's most notorious killers.
I just want to pick your brains in terms of the type of individual we're dealing with.
Christian B is a repeated child sex offender, but he's never been convicted of murder.
Considering what we know of him, particularly the rape, which he's serving a sentence for, I think there are elements of psychopathy.
So, if he abducts Madeleine and murders her, what happens to his behaviour after that? Because we now have this alibi, and she's confirmed that they were stopped at a roadblock, takes her to the airport, doesn't get rid of his car, doesn't make any effort to change his routine. Would you expect that?
If he was the one who supposedly abducted Maddie and indeed killed her, you would expect some form of behavioural change because, of course, that's someone who's never really committed that sort of offence. You would expect anxiety, restlessness, perhaps a change in normal routine.
David's brilliant. I could spend hours talking to him, but what he has done is supported the view that if Christian B is responsible, there would have been a change in behaviour. And what we're being told very clearly is that in the days after Madeleine's disappearance and worldwide media attention, he doesn't change his behaviour. He carries on in a normal routine. He takes the girl that he's with to the airport. He doesn't get rid of his vehicle. He doesn't change his routine. That is not the behaviour of someone who's just committed the abduction of a child who is murdered.
I've spent 4 months corresponding with Christian B, and he had agreed to meet face to face, but the prisoners blocked our visit, citing safety concerns. So I write back asking for verifiable facts proving where he was when Madeleine disappeared.
So I've just spoken to the office and a letter has arrived from Christian B. He's answered my questions, 4 pages worth. So he's obviously saying something. This story has played out in the media. We've got the German prosecutors making their allegation, and we've got silence from Christian B. But now he opens up about the allegations against him, and specifically around May 2007 and what he says he was doing. So he says he goes to jail and comes out in December 2006, and from that point on, he does not return back to Praia de Luz. He says from February 2007, he started dealing drugs to people around the beach.
Christian B says he spent time on Barranco Beach in his camper van. It's 20 kilometres from Praia de Luz.
He's opened up to me and said to me, I was selling drugs on a large scale. I'd make trips back and forth to Spain 6 or so times, bringing drugs back, marijuana, making a good living. And when you compare that to his convictions for drugs, that's correct. It wasn't until after 2007 that he started to get his first drugs conviction. This is what puts credibility to his letter. This is a photograph that's been widely circulated, which is his VW camper van. I've done some research as to where that photograph was taken, and I know that photograph was taken at Barranco Beach, and he's now telling me that he was dealing drugs on Barranco Beach. So it ties up. So the alibi. This is where it gets really interesting. So he says that the week, including the period of time that Madeleine went missing, he met up with a girl, let's call her the Alibi, and he spent time with her overnight. He would drive up to Calvario, he would park up there, she would come out of the apartment where she was for a week, staying with her parents. They'd spend time together in his camper van, she would go home a few hours later, and he would stay until around 10 o'clock in the morning, and then he would drive back to the beach area.
Crucially, Christian B still doesn't remember if he was with his claimed alibi on the evening Madeleine McCann disappeared. And his alibi only covers the hours of midnight to 2 a.m. when he says they were together, but Madeleine was taken 2 to 3 hours earlier. He does reveal a key new piece of evidence, a police photograph with his alibi at a roadblock a few days after Madeleine vanished.
He says he was stopped and there was a person taking photographs. He challenged that person and was told by the Portuguese police that that officer is from New Scotland Yard taking photographs. That's giving specific detail which can be checked out, because you could go to New Scotland Yard and ask them questions. We've obviously been to the Portuguese, they don't have a record, but perhaps New Scotland Yard do. This letter provides great facts. Is it the definitive version that immediately shuts down the German prosecutor's case? No, it's not. It provides information that can be checked out or could be proved to be wrong. And now the onus is back on the prosecution to check all this out.
I have followed this case from the very beginning and have seen how this complex investigation has been a terrible load for the McCanns to bear, something that my friend and fellow journalist Sandra knows only too well.
What's Madeleine's story? It's more than a story. She's in our lives for the last 15 years. While you don't know what happened, you don't find the truth, you don't know what happened to Madeleine, and you live with this doubt in your heart. It's very tragic. Because it's very hard to keep putting questions about the same night. Always about the same night, the same 3rd of May. Who was there?
After 6 months of investigation, speaking to his alibi's partner and communicating with Christian B himself, does this put us any closer to knowing if he is connected to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann?
The whole basis of my investigation has been around to establish whether or not Christian B is responsible for the abduction and murder of Madeleine McCann. I have had the unique opportunity that nobody else has had. No reporter, no investigator, not even the police. To put to Christian B all my evidence and get his response. And his response confirms the evidence I've got from other people.
From what I've uncovered, and on the basis that he is innocent until proven guilty, I can only reach one view.
My conclusion is that whilst Christian B is a child sex offender, uses the internet, indeed grooms children through relationships,
I have real doubts about the evidence that it is Christian B
that abducted and murdered Madeleine McCann. And we don't know who it is.
The person responsible has yet to face justice. And a family still faces pain and uncertainty. In response, the German prosecution has said, Christian B's lawyer, Mr. Fulcher, has said. Christian B has said,